Welcome to Must Have Missed It, the podcast about how James has not seen any movies.
What do you want from me?
That famous movie, the one you're always quoting, that you're referencing with your friends, really good chance James has not seen it. But that's why we're here. I'm forcing James to watch a whole bunch of movies that he probably should have seen already.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
I am Josh, and whatever you do, do not open the cage. And this is my co-host.
Hey, I'm James, and I swore that the salt would cover up the taste.
Sometimes the salt doesn't cover the taste, and it's okay. As long as you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get them. Make sure you follow us on TikTok. The content is not good, but follow us anyway. We appreciate it. Make sure you also follow us on Instagram at Must Have Missed It, at Twitter at Must Have Missed It, and join the Discord. And if you're the person that really likes to send emails, we love to read them. So email us at musthavemissed@gmail.com.
Yeah, we'll take all the interaction.
Any interaction you've got, push the buttons, send the things, do the stuff. So what movie are we talking about today, James?
Oh, man, I'm excited for this one. We're going to be doing 28 Days Later.
28 Days Later. It's one of my absolute favorite horror movies. That's kind of why we picked it. I don't know if you checked your calendar, people, but today is Halloween.
Yeah?
Snuck up on us. Just pops up out of nowhere every year on December or October 31st.
Scary stuff.
Scary how it just comes out of nowhere like that. But that's, timing was a lot of the reason why we picked this movie. We wanted to find something that was horror themed for Halloween. We promised you a holiday episode, and here we are. We thought about choosing the low-hanging fruit and picking Halloween, but, maybe next year. A couple of other movies we talked about, we'll probably do them anyway. This movie made sense with James being such a big fan of zombie media. Again, it being Halloween and just being in the spirit of this kind of movie, It just made sense. So let's dig deeper into 28 Days Later. It was written by Alex Garland, who rose to fame in the 90s with the novel The Beach, which in the year 2000 would be turned into a movie by Danny Boyle. This was his first screenplay. Danny Boyle directed this movie. Garland would go on to write the screenplay for the Danny Boyle film Sunshine, so they are frequent collaborators. He would also write the screenplay for the incredibly dope movie Dread, like the most underrated action movie I've ever seen. Action movies are not my shit. I mean, to each his own, but they don't really do it for me for the most part. But this one, incredibly well shot, great performances. Lena Headey is the villain in this movie, so if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you'll absolutely love seeing Cersei as the villain in this movie. Really, really good, very underrated movie. After that, he started kind of moving into directing. So his feature debut was Ex Machina, fantastic movie about AI and the limits of human control and things like that. Came out in 2014. He followed that up with Annihilation in 2018, which is based on a novel by Jeff Vandermeer. The movie's very different from the novel. So, you say adaptation, but it's kind of more inspired by, I would say, the novel really than adapted from. Both movies are pretty awesome, but Annihilation gets a little weird towards the end. It's an odd movie. You can say that about a lot of Garland stuff. It's very, I would say he is an auteur. He makes shit that he wants to make for himself. And if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you probably fucking hate Alex Garland stuff. Let's be honest. He also wrote, directed, and served as executive producer for the FX miniseries Devs, which if you've seen and would like to talk to somebody about it, I would love to talk to you about it. I've been looking for someone to talk to about this show. No one I know has seen it, and musthavemissed@gmail.com if you want to talk about Devs.
Yeah, man. Devs and 12 Monkeys. Get at this guy about these shows.
Please holler at me about either of these shows. I have a lot to say. Directed by Danny Boyle, English director. He made his name with his debut, The Shallow Grave, or Shallow Grave, not The Shallow Grave, which in 1995 won the BAFTA for Best British Film, which is a pretty good accomplishment for your first movie. He followed it up with Trainspotting. Both of these movies starred Ewan McGregor, who was, an early frequent collaborator with Danny Boyle. His third movie, The Beach, Ewan McGregor expected to be cast as the lead. He was not. Leonardo DiCaprio was cast instead, and it caused a rift between Boyle and McGregor that lasted for several years. They eventually made up. They're good friends again now. Boyle would go on to make a movie called Slumdog Millionaire, which won him a BAFTA and an Academy Award for Best Director. He would eventually later go on to direct 127 Hours, James Franco movie based on a true story, also nominated for several Academy Awards. He made Steve Jobs and Trainspotting sequel that I haven't seen. When they were casting the movie, they wanted to find mostly unknown actors. I think Boyle felt that having major stars in the movie would kind of distract the audience, ruin the suspension of disbelief. So, most of the people cast in this movie, aside from a few people, were just most complete unknowns. So we have Cillian Murphy as Jim, a guy who's literally throughout this entire movie just fucking lucky to be alive. You've got Naomi Harris as Selena, who will literally kill you in a heartbeat. She will not hesitate. She will murder you like it's nothing. Brendan Gleeson as Frank, friendly dude, girl dad, hater of crows. Megan Birds as Hannah, quiet badass, top tier getaway driver. Christopher Eccleston as Major Henry West. This guy fucking sucks.
Boo.
Yeah, tough hang. Not necessarily the toughest hang in this movie, but he's a tough hang. Got Noah Huntley as Mark, teller of dad jokes. Stuart McQuarrie as Sergeant Farrell, the army dude who doesn't suck. Leo Bill as Private Jones, a.k.a. Doris the cook. Ricky Harnett as Corporal Mitchell, who sounds like a fucking chimney sweep from Mary Poppins. Junior Lanian as Private Bell. He's the guy who runs out of ammo. Luke Mabley as Private Clifton. He's the one with the hat. Ray Panthaki is Private Bedford. He's the one with the beard. Sanjay Rambaruth is Private Davis. He's the one with the bad haircut. And then Marvin Campbell is Private Mailer, who is the literal rage monster. Yeah. This movie was filmed in the UK around 2001. To get the abandoned city and highway shots, the crew blocked off streets in the city early in the morning and filmed for roughly 45 minutes at a time to get all these shots. So it took a long time, a lot of work to set up and get those shots in that amount of time. Because of the tight shooting schedule, they weren't able to use conventional film cameras. So they used the Canon XL1, which is the equivalent of shooting an $8 million movie on like a Samsung Galaxy S1. Not a recent phone, but like the original Galaxy S, which is why the movie looks so fucking bad.
Yeah, I was going to say that explains some things.
Yeah, it's that's the only real knock I have on this movie is it just looks bad. The choice to go just the digital look, it looks like a TV show. It's unfortunate. Like there's so many shots that could be truly epic and amazing if the saturation was right or the blue green, the red green, the tint was right. I mean, it's just some of the shots are intentionally blurry and I don't understand why. And I don't know. There's a lot about the way this movie was shot that I have issues with. But aside from that, great movie. This movie came out, of course, after 9/11, and like many things in the post 9/11 climate, it was heavily criticized for being insensitive, so to speak. Specifically, the scene where Jim finds the message board with all the missing persons flyers and stuff like that. It hit pretty close to home for a lot of people that lost people at 9/11, which I understand. The score for this movie was composed by John Murphy, very heavy on electric guitar and synth. A few other artists contributed to the soundtrack, including Godspeed You! Black Emperor, Brian Eno, Blue States, and Granddaddy. The movie was well liked by audiences and critics. It made back about 10 times its budget, about $8 million it cost to make this movie, and it made 85.7, including $45 million in the U.S., despite releasing on fewer than 1,500 screens nationwide, that's pretty limited as far as releases go. So yeah, great job. Performed incredibly well, especially compared to its budget. Very successful in terms of profitability. 28 Days Later, along with the video game series Resident Evil, is pretty much the reason that we have The Walking Dead, Zombieland, a lot of the modern zombie media that we have. Pretty much all of it was inspired by this movie and has been influenced by this movie. And if you don't see the references, you're not paying attention. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. We'll get there when we get there, but there were a lot of things in this movie that reminded me a lot of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And,
we'll definitely talk about that.
The Walking Dead first, I say reminded, but
right.
It come from things like this.
That will definitely get covered. So enough about the movie. What is this movie about? Well, it opens with a chimpanzee being forced to watch scenes of violence, riots, public executions, all the best of human nature. There's like wires attached to his head and it's in restraints. It's pretty sad. Not what you want to see. A group of animal activists break in to free the primates, but the researcher on duty sees them and attempts to call security. There's this really weird cut here that I was showing to James today. It drives me crazy. I don't understand why this cut is in the movie. It's if you're not paying attention, you'll completely miss it, but it fucking drives me crazy. I don't know why. Anyway, the activists absolutely ignore the researchers' terrified and very sincere sounding plea to not release the animals. They are infected with a highly contagious disease called rage. The activists release a chimp and it immediately attacks one of the activists, like biting her face off. And within seconds, she turns to infected and she throws up blood in another person's face and they become infected. And then the shit hits the fan. I guess we pick up 28 days later. Oh, shit. I get it now. 28 days later.
Yeah, that's the name of the movie.
They said the thing.
Holy shit.
So our guy Jim wakes up buck naked in a hospital bed, which makes me really question the British healthcare system. He walks around a completely empty and surprisingly blurry hospital, attempting to use the phones, which don't work. And then he finds a can of product placement and chugs it. He fills a bag with more cans of product placement and heads out into the city. It seems deserted as Jim repeatedly calls out to no avail. He does a tour of London featuring some really, again, beautiful shots that are just so fucking ugly on this camera. Finds a paper that reads evacuation as the headline and finds a giant message board for missing persons. He enters a church, I guess looking for sanctuary, I'm not sure, but he finds instead a whole lot of dead bodies. He calls out, hello? And is greeted by, even by church standards, an extremely handsy priest. Jim decks him with his bag of product placement and dips, pursued by several infected. He's found by two people chucking Molotovs and follows them back to their hideaway. Mark and Selena explain to Jim what has been going down while Jim was taking his nap. Jim wants to go find his parents, but Mark and Selena convince him to wait until morning. In the morning, they head to Jim's parents' house, and as predicted, his parents are dead, though they died by suicide rather than meeting a violent end, so that's fortunate, I think. He finds a picture of him as a child with a note addressed to him, which is a little weird and definitely a movie thing. Mark tells the devastating story of his family's attempt to escape England, and the group decides to stay at Jim's for the night. Jim gets up in the night and hallucinates in the kitchen. Unfortunately, he's carrying a candle, which catches the attention of a few infected. He nearly dies, but he's saved by Selena and Mark. Unfortunately, Mark has a giant cut on his arm, and all it takes is like literally a drop of infected blood getting into your system to turn you. So Selena, taking no chances, chops Mark into fucking pieces with her machete, orders Jim to gear up, and they prepare to get the fuck out of there. As they walk, Selena explains what the deal is. If she thinks Jim's turning, she will kill him without hesitation. Across the way, they see some Christmas lights on a balcony and decide to head in that direction. They begin climbing the long staircase to the apartment, but Jim is straight up gassed, guys. He is crashing because he hasn't had any protein since like before his coma.
Right.
So they hear the scream of an infected climbing up the stairs, and Selena yells, "Quiet!" which absolutely defeats the purpose of being quiet. So the infected start heading up the stairs after Jim and Selena shows she has no qualms about leaving Jim behind. They eventually reach Frank, decked out in riot gear, who handles the infected before inviting the pair into the apartment he shares with his daughter, Hannah. It's a cause for celebration. So, what are we drinking? Oh, creme de menthe.
Oh,
fuck.
Best of the best.
Better than nothing. I guess you take what you can get in the apocalypse. Everybody heads to bed, and Jim and Selena discuss Frank and Hannah, with Jim saying that he thinks they're good people, and Selena saying that shit does not matter. Are they going to get you killed? Because that's the only thing that matters. In the morning, Frank explains to Jim that they're not going to be able to survive in the apartment long term due to a lack of food and water, and plays a radio broadcast for Jim and Selena that promises salvation. Frank admits to overhearing the conversation that Jim and Selena had the night before and proposes a plan to head towards salvation. They hop in Frank's cab and head out. When faced with the choice of a longer overland route or the shorter route through the tunnel, Frank chooses the most dangerous option, like a responsible parent. Jim protests, but then apparently everyone's having the time of their lives. Good times never last, though, and then one of the tires goes flat. As they start to put on the spare, they're swarmed by rats, which are actually fleeing from a group of infected. A tense moment ensues, but the group gets the tire changed just in time and escapes the pursuing infected. They stop at a grocery store for, a couple things, just the essentials. Then they head towards the blockade where salvation awaits. They spot a tanker truck and siphon gas to fill up the cab. Jim decides to go into the restaurant. I think it's a restaurant. The sign says they sell cheeseburgers. I assume it's a restaurant. Anyway, he finds more dead bodies and really fucking feeling himself. He calls hello again before being attacked by the child, who he then beats to death with his baseball bat. I didn't even know British people fucked with baseball. Hannah shows off her stunt driving skills, and they're off again. They stop to grub down. Selena finally opens it up to Jim and gives him a quick kiss. They decide to camp out for the night, and Jim has a nightmare about being left behind. On the road the next morning, they see the entirety of Manchester burning in the distance. I've spoken to British people. They said this is no big deal, guys. They finally arrive at the blockade and find salvation. Just kidding. They don't find shit. Frank loses his shit and gets pissed at some crows. The crows end up having the last laugh, however, as a drop of infected blood falls in Frank's eye. Realizing he's about to turn, he tells Hannah that he loves her and orders her to stay away. Jim is prepared to kill Frank, but the soldiers finally show up and shoot the infected Frank. R.I.P., my guy. The soldiers take the remaining trio back to the mansion that they are using as a base. They're greeted by Major Henry West, the leader of the soldiers at the mansion. He welcomes them into the mansion and offers them showers. Selena, in a conversation with Jim, finally shows some emotion and breaks down over the death of Frank to, make her feel better. Jim kisses Selena, who kisses him back passionately before leaving with blue balls. Major West explains the defenses of the mansion and takes Jim on a tour, which includes, conveniences like hot water, a kitchen, and a live infected person named Mailer chained in the garden. West explains that he's learning from Mailer that the infected have no means of surviving long term, and he'll eventually learn how long it takes for them to starve to death. Time for dinner. Jones has prepared a feast including tinned beans, tinned peas, tinned ham, and rotten ass eggs. The salt did not, in fact, cover the flavor.
It did not.
We're introduced to Corporal Mitchell, who sounds like a chimney sweep from Mary Poppins, and Sergeant Farrell, the new age sergeant, according to West, who is definitely the smartest and most rational of the army dudes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Love Farrell. R.I.P. my guy. West tells everyone that the infection has decimated England, that the infection that has decimated England is no big deal, guys. It's just people killing people, same as it always was. My guy really has his finger on the pulse.
Right.
Some infected breach the perimeter, and the soldiers head out to deal with them. When they come back, Mitchell gets aggressive with Selena, and Farrell clocks him. West takes Jim to have a drink and explains to Jim that he promised his men and women, to do the sex with and to repopulate the planet and whatnot. Jim is definitely not okay with this and tries to leave with Hannah and Selena before getting knocked the fuck out. West offers Jim a chance to get on board, but when West realizes that Jim is not going to do that, he orders Jim to be locked up with Farrell. Farrell tells Jim that the rest of the world is fine, England is being quarantined, and West is insane. Mitchell shows up with Jones to take Jim and Farrell to their executions. Mitchell, a true sadist, wants to stab Farrell to death, but Jones shoots him. Pissed off, Mitchell tackles Jones, and Jim takes the opportunity to dip. He jumps the fence and runs for a little while, falls over, and then notices a plane flying overhead, which basically confirms what Farrell was telling him, that the rest of the world is still going, and it's really just England that's being quarantined. He heads back to the mansion where the soldiers are forcing Selena and Hannah into changing clothes. Selena tricks the soldiers into leaving the room so you can give Hannah drugs to get her to not care or kill her. It's, kind of ambiguous, I think, in this scene. About get her to not care about the impending sexual assault. Jeez, this movie's fucking dark.
Right.
Jim sounds the alarm at the blockade, and when West and Davis ride out there, Jim kills Davis and leaves Westwood on his vehicle. Back at the house, Jim frees Mailer to create chaos in the house. Hannah is high as hell and giving exactly 0 fucks. She starts talking mad shit to the soldiers in the room, telling them that their fellow soldiers are dead and they're going to be next. Mailer shows up to fulfill the prophecy, infecting the soldier with the hat. Shit, which one was that?
That
Clifton
was Clifton.
Yeah.
Clifton.
Infected Clifton, and Selena and Hannah head for the exit. They're stopped by Mitchell and the one with the beard.
That is
whatever. The one with the beard. It doesn't matter. He's going to die in a minute.
Bedford?
Bedford. Yeah, that's the one. Meanwhile, Jones hides in the cabinet while his comrades get brutally murdered right in front of him. Mitchell takes Hannah and Selena upstairs, but Hannah runs off. Jones tries to make his exit, but gets bayoneted by Jim. West makes it back to the mansion just in time to watch Jones die. One of the infected almost discovers Hannah, but she's able to keep herself hidden. Mitchell attempts to hole up with Selena, but Jim takes him out in extremely violent fashion, bashing his head into the wall before gouging his eyes out the mountain style.
Mm-hmm.
Burn in hell, Mitchell. Selena, unsure if Jim is infected or not, grabs a machete. She hesitates instead of killing him, however, which is fortunate because he was not infected. I don't know why he acted like he might have been. Like, you not care about your life at all, my dude.
Right.
Hannah, still high as hell, fucking decks Jim, tries to knock him out with a vase. They head for the car, but West is waiting for him. West shoots Jim, then Hannah backs up towards the mansion, allowing Mailer to grab West, leading to his death, I hope. Fuck that guy. Jim and Selena get in the car, and Hannah crashes to the gate, and we get, for the second episode in a row, a freeze frame.
Fucking freeze frame.
A couple super quick cuts later, and Jim wakes up in the cottage in the countryside. Selena's stitching what we come to find out is part of a giant sign that says, "Hello." Hannah hears the plane, and they drag the sign out, jumping and waving at the plane as it flies overhead. The end. Great movie. Fucking love it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of notes on this one, but I'll go ahead and hit them. Primate Research Center, CENTRE, in case you were not sure if this movie is British. It's fucking British as hell. Story, when I first saw the premiere of Walking Dead, I'd read the comics, so I kind of knew how it was going to start anyway. But I'm watching it with a group of friends, and, Rick wakes up in the hospital, and I'm like, how long do y'all figure it took him to grow that beard? I'm like, I don't know, like a month. I was like, that's like 4 weeks. I'm like, yeah, about 4 weeks. That sounds fair. So you could say it was like 28 days later. So yeah, I mean, when we were talking earlier about the influences this has had on other zombie media, like that's a very obvious influence. The opening of The Walking Dead was very much inspired by the opening of this movie. It's the same thing, and just nobody wrote a song that says oh fuck, what does the sign say?
Don't open dead inside.
Don't dead open inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't dead open inside. Good sign. Hannah whipping, the scene where they fill up the car from the tanker, and she whips the car right in front of the truck, and Frank pretends like he's upset with her, but when he realizes that nobody else is watching, he's like smiling and shit. Yeah. It's like walking outside just in time to see your fucking kid do a backflip off the roof, and you want to be mad, but you're like, that was fucking dope, you know? Like, what can you really say? Like, don't do that again. That was awesome. And the foreshadowing of the soldiers, the way they look at each other when Hannah and Selena and Jim first arrive, it kind of gives you a clue that things are probably not going to work out well for the trio.
Yeah.
At the mansion. Any notes you want to share?
Yeah, just real quick. Both of these you've kind of touched on, but you know, I just kind of found it funny that, you know, we both recognized them. The quiet, that's an infected, you know,
right? Yeah,
when she screams
extremely loud.
Well, like, yo,
that's the opposite of what you're going for there, I believe.
And then, kind of what you were talking about, but for me, it was a different moment where I think it clicked for me, like, oh shit, this is going in a really bad direction. They're in the truck, the soldiers, with Selena, Hannah, and Jim, and they're radioing to the guys back at the compound, and he's like, we have got one male, 2 female. I repeat, 1 male, 2 female.
Yeah.
And just something about the way he said that when he emphasized the 2 female, I was like, ah, shit.
There's also a moment where the soldier looks kind of leeringly at Selena and Hannah in the truck, and Jim sees the look that he gives them, and you see Jim looking at the soldier, and yeah, it's a little more foreshadowing about what's coming for him when they get there.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, I think we have reached that point where we go drink some more.
Yeah, I think it's about time for a bourbon break.
Let's hit that bourbon break.
Let's go.
And we are back. So, James, how did you feel about this movie, and how did this movie make you feel?
Man, I got major Walking Dead vibes from this movie.
Hopefully in the good way.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned earlier how this and Resident Evil were kind of catalysts for The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And watching this movie, I can't count how many times it made me feel like I was watching The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Like you said, in a good way, you know, season 6 and before of The Walking Dead. But you know, this is also one of the only movies in recent memory that I've watched that I didn't feel the need to ever pause.
Oh, awesome. Wow.
Yeah. We've discussed, you know, in previous podcasts that's an issue for me, sitting still.
Right.
Yeah, no, this movie just all the way through, man.
Yeah.
Not a moment in this movie that it felt like, man, I need to walk away from this for a minute.
Right.
So really gripped me from the beginning to end. Almost when I got to the end was like, oh shit, that's it. Like,
yeah.
You know.
Go ahead.
But yeah, this movie took me through a lot of emotions. You know, as movies like this tend to do, you have your moments where you get these real conversations with people, and then out of nowhere, shit's going down.
Yeah.
Just that ramp up, the tension of never knowing when the next oh shit moment is going to come.
Right.
Just really kept me at the edge of my seat all the way through. Absolute thrill ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about the pacing of this movie earlier, and you know, you said this movie is just perfectly paced. You know, you get the set pieces and you get the nice quiet moments, and everything just feels like it's exactly where it should be in this movie. I pacing is, you know, hit or miss, and it'll even movies I love, I criticize the pacing in.
Yeah.
And this movie is just, I think it's as close to perfect as you can be in terms of, again, when the action ramps up and when you have the quiet moments and the reflective moments, and just very, very well done in terms of pacing.
aside from what I think I think is my least favorite scene, I don't think there's a scene in this movie that overstays its welcome.
Yeah.
I think it's just super well done.
Yeah. I mean, when I was looking at the categories and I was thinking favorite scene, I was like, I mean, shit, this movie. A
lot of choices.
A lot of choices. This movie, it's really hard. You know, even least favorite scene, it's hard to find a scene to really criticize. You can be nitpicky. I mean, every scene's not perfect. I'm not saying this is a perfect movie. It's definitely not that. You know, we talked a lot earlier about the way the movie looks. It's kind of an ugly movie.
Kind of grainy.
Yeah, grainy.
Blurry.
Blurry. Again, the green-blue tint is a little heavy in a lot of scenes, and it's not super aesthetically pleasing. But aside from that, I don't really think there's a lot about this movie I can criticize.
Yeah, and you have movies where that is the case, and other aspects of the movie are bad. So then it just becomes, you can pile on this movie and tear it to shreds. And then you have movies like this one where, yeah, it might look like shit, but there's enough there.
Yeah.
That you can look past that.
Yeah. And it's honestly frustrating because I said that, but I don't think the whole movie looks like shit. There are certain scenes that, again, it's either the tint or the light saturation or the blurriness of the shot that I just don't understand the choices that were made in a lot of instances. But I think the way this movie is edited and cut together is brilliant. The kinetic editing, especially during the zombie or the infected sequences, is just really exciting. I think the editing during the I think we're going to talk about the scene a little more later, but the scene with the tire with the flat, I think the editing in that scene, the way it keeps the tension going is really good. It's one of my least favorite scenes, I think, in the movie. You know, probably not going to win least favorite scene, but it's not one of my favorite scenes in the movie, but the way it is edited makes it so tense. And we talked a little about this earlier and kind of the logic of the scene and how far away the zombies are, and you know, some of it is. It's another one of those movies where if you really want to be nitpicky about that kind of stuff, then it could kind of fall apart. But I think the frenetic editing and things like that really keep the tension high in this movie.
Yeah, we talked about that scene, and I think the first thing I said was like, dude, no way she fucking changes that tire in that amount of time.
Yeah.
But, you know, you kind of pointed out the shadows of the infected, and I came around a little bit. I still have some problems with that scene.
Yeah.
But
it's a little bit of a forced perspective, making it seem like the zombies are closer than they are initially. But when you watch the scene frame by frame, well, not necessarily frame by frame, but if you really break down the scene, you'll realize that what I was actually seeing in the beginning wasn't the zombie or the infected being close. It was the shadow cast by the light, and yada yada.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you, like I said, if you really want to be nitpicky, you can find problems with this movie. But if you're just sitting back as an experience, this is a hell of an experience to watch a movie.
For sure.
That said, does it live up to the hype for you?
Yeah. Again, I can't say that I watched this movie start to finish without pausing and say it doesn't live up to the hype. I would watch this movie, whenever it felt right, whenever it came up. You know, we were kind of talking about how often to watch a movie that you enjoy. But yeah, I could watch this one whenever the horror itch was kicking in.
Yeah.
I keep hesitating. I want to say I would watch this movie over and over and over and over again because that's how I feel. Like, this zombie shit right up my alley. But yeah, it lives up to the hype for sure. I didn't know really anything about this movie going into it. I thought it could have been the Sandra Bullock movie, 28 Days, for all I knew. Yeah, for sure, man. This one is a banger.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything that stood out in terms of sound design, score, visuals?
Man, I wasn't really looking forward to this part because a lot of the things that I that did stand out to me were negative, and they are kind of nitpicky.
Yeah.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention them. The close-ups, jump scare kind of things they do with the close-up on the infected face and the red eyes. I don't know.
Didn't work for you.
Nothing in movies or television like that really works for me.
Yeah.
The quick jump cut to the full screen of it feels cheap to me.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, it is.
Especially the one in the, I don't mean to harp on this scene, but the one in the tunnel scene.
Yeah.
Where they're running up on the back of the
car
windshield and you see that one. That stuff for me, I really could leave it out of my horror movies, which I don't ever watch. The sounds, I thought the music was pretty good. Yeah. We're coming off of
John Williams and
heading
into John Williams.
Heading into a John Williams movie.
we're sandwiched between John Williams, so it's really hard to appreciate the score when that's what your competition is. So
yeah. Not to say that it was bad. The music in this movie is definitely good. I just don't think it's as well. I think the music in this movie is not as important as it is in other movies.
Yeah, I can see that.
But when it is used, it's good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the sequence where Jim is walking through London.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk more about this later.
Yeah, it's top bop vibes.
Man, that's such a great track. I really like the soundtrack to this movie, the score to this movie. I think John Murphy did a fantastic job. It really works for the vibe of the movie.
Yeah.
You couldn't plug this movie into Star Wars and expect it to be the. It's not going to work in Star Wars. It's not going to work in E.T. Obviously, it's not John Williams shit. Very heavy on electric guitar and the kind of ambient electronic music synth kind of stuff. So it's very different from what we did last episode and what we're doing next episode. So it's a different vibe. But again, for the movie, I think it's pretty much perfect. I have no complaints about the music in this movie. Again, the Godspeed You Black Emperor track during the Jim walking through the London sequence is just fucking amazing. That is so good. The ramp up, the crescendo, and that I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you kind of hit on a little of this, but was there anything else that didn't work for you in this movie?
There were a couple things. I'm just gonna not apologize anymore for being nitpicky. Sometimes a movie is so good, or maybe not so good, but so enjoyable that you just have to nitpick it to find things that didn't work for you. But the scene where Mark dies.
Yeah.
Jim is on the ground after being attacked, and he clearly wipes his mouth.
Covered in blood.
Covered in blood. And whose blood? We don't know.
No one knows.
But his mouth is open. You see it. You can't deny it. And Selena's like, "Did you get any blood in your mouth?" And he's confidently like, "No,
I'm good."
Like, motherfucker, you got it all over your face. Like, how do you know? So nitpicky, yes, but I kind of felt like if you're going to have Selena ask him that question, there should be the scene should have a more definitive answer.
Right.
Other than that, the only other thing was when he goes to the church, and before the priest comes out, he goes, "Hello?" and these two infected kind of pop up.
Yeah.
But then
I guess they just stand there, while he has the interaction with the priest. Yeah.
And then they don't start chasing
until he leaves the church. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, those are things.
That's movie shit.
Yeah, it's movie shit. You know, you got to nitpick it, and you can find stuff like that in every single movie. It doesn't make it bad. It's just sometimes that, you know, the director is not thinking, oh, that doesn't quite make sense, does it?
Right.
You know, they're more focused on, we need to get this part of the scene.
Or, you know, creating a tension of, you know, you have to have them be behind him in the chase, so he has to leave first. So,
right.
You know, some of it's just logistics of what needs to happen next. Yeah.
Right. And then we watch it and we're like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I felt the same way about the tunnel scene when the car is pulling away from the infected. They just stop running. Like, I don't think they would stop running until they could no longer see the car. Like, that's kind of the thing is like they don't really. Anyway, like, that's nitpicky stuff. And yeah, I agree. You know, if you want to be the kind of person that picks apart movies, and it's easy to do with any movie you want to do it to. Definitely this one too. But again, I don't claim the movie is perfect, but I think it's, you know, very well done. And I think the majority of the criticisms of this movie are structural, nitpicky things. Yeah. I think the story is strong. The performances are strong. That, you know, you really have to be looking for the thing, unless this is just not your type of movie.
Yeah.
You know, I get that. You know, I was completely on board with the first season of Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
Second season,
it's rough.
You know, as we've discussed on this podcast, you know, I have some issues with mental health, and I wasn't in a good place for season 2 of Handmaid's Tale at the time, and I just haven't come back to it. But this movie definitely has some Handmaid's Tale vibes in the second half of the movie.
For sure.
You know, when I was talking to James, I was like, he's like, so, like, how would you describe it? And I'm like, well, like, half The Walking Dead, half Handmaid's Tale, which sounds weird, but, like, it'll make sense when you see it.
Right.
So I guess it's probably time to go and get into award season.
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's start with a favorite scene. What's your favorite scene in this movie?
All right. Hear me out.
That's never a good start.
This is not my favorite scene in terms of enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely on my first watch, I thought, oh man, like, this could be my best scene.
Mm-hmm.
On my rewatch, I couldn't get off of it.
Yeah.
So my favorite scene is the scene in which Frank dies.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not because Frank dies.
Right.
But I think that it is one of the most well executed scenes in the movie. I think it's one of the most well acted scenes in the movie. And it's really all just Gleason.
Yeah.
It's really all Brendan Gleason.
Gleason's killing in this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I have a feeling we're going to talk about that in a minute.
And I would love to know how many takes that this took.
Mm-hmm.
It would fucking bring me so much joy to know that he did it in like 1 or 2 takes and just killed it, because it's such a convincing performance.
Oh, it's fantastic.
From the moment that he realizes what just happened to him after the blood drips into his eye, and turns to Hannah. If you're not gripped in that scene, like, I don't know what the fuck you're watching movies for.
Yeah.
You're seeing a father realize in this moment that this is the last few seconds that he gets with his child.
Yeah.
And he doesn't waste a single one.
Yeah, and it's super relatable. You know, the idea, like, don't go to bed mad, don't leave mad.
Yeah.
You know? And like that really shines through here with you know, they're literally the last interaction they had prior to that was him being upset, yelling.
Exactly.
And, you know, his immediate thought is, oh, that was a shitty thing that I did and I should apologize to my daughter. And he does that, tells her he loves her. It's the most emotionally impactful scene in the movie, and it's fantastic.
So yeah, for all those reasons that I mentioned and you mentioned, it's absolutely my favorite. You know, I think there's a very chalky answer to this question, and I'm not saying the chalky choice for this award is bad.
Yeah.
And I won't spoil that. Maybe it's yours, but I just could not get away from this scene. I was like, holy shit, man! Like, if there was a scene in this movie that really got me emotionally, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with an honorable mention because I'm a cheater. I want to highlight, I don't really know that you consider this a scene. I guess it's more the sequence, but basically the entirety of the movie from when Jim hops back over the fence, you know, when he leaves West behind until he gets shot by West is my favorite part of this movie. I fucking love it. It's so good. The pacing is perfect. The funniest shot in this movie is who is it? Clifton? No, it's not Clifton. Clifton's one of the zombies, or he's one of the infected at that point. Beard guy? Maybe it's Beard guy. Maybe it's Jones. No, it's not Jones because he's still hiding. I think it's Beard guy. Getting chased by Mailer as Mitchell and the Davis watch. It's just no, not Davis.
In the background.
Whoever is with the soldiers' names. Fuck that shit. I'm not keeping up with that. There's Mitchell, there's Farrell, there's West, and there's the rest of them.
Yeah,
and
one
Jones.
Of the soldiers is being chased by Mailer.
Yeah, that's so fucking funny, man. It's just everybody watching it happen. You know, the framing of the shot, how far away it is from the action that's happening. It's so funny to me. The funniest part of the movie. But my favorite scene is the Jim's walk through London at the beginning. It's just, again, if this movie wasn't so fucking ugly, it would be one of the most gorgeous sequences in the history of cinema. You get a lot of great overhead shots and long distance shots and close up shots. I mean, it's just the variety of what you get, plus the music and the emotion of that scene is just fantastic. That's tops for me.
So now that you've got yours out of the way and I don't have to worry about spoilers or spoiling your answer, the chalky answer that I mentioned was definitely the end sequence with Jim and kind of saving the day, just that whole... but I thought that you might choose the intro scene, so I wanted to wait. The overhead shots, you know, we've talked before. That's kind of a
weakness. Yeah,
kind of a sucker for that. And you know, you get at least 5, if not more, in that opening sequence.
Great overhead shots in this movie.
All fucking great. My favorite one was it's maybe the highest shot of all of them. It's like the top of a skyscraper. You see this angel statue on the left-hand side, and just, you know, Jim.
You barely see Jim,
size of an ant. And it's just something about movies and TV shows like this in that kind of apocalyptic world where a shot like that just really lets it sink in how
empty,
how small, how insignificant, how empty. Just it's just one of those shots that can make you feel.
Gives you perspective on what's really going on. That said, I have a couple of issues with the sequence just because he didn't come across a single infected. Like, he was walking for hours. It's yelling every couple minutes. Like,
I didn't think about that. Maybe that was a choice.
I mean, it's again, I discussed earlier, it's a movie thing. You know, it's a thing the movie did to establish the atmosphere and things like that, and Jim's sense of solitude, which is a big factor in this movie. And I don't think we talked much about it. Is really Jim's whole arc is finding that family. that he lost, waking up from the coma, and he wants to find his parents, and well, his parents are dead, and Frank and Hannah become kind of a surrogate family, and Selena, and that's really his arc is finding that family and protecting them, and I totally lost my train of thought, but it's fine.
Waking up, trying to find your family.
Who knows?
Sounds like someone.
Yeah, that's familiar.
Rick Grimes?
Yeah, definitely reminds me of something I've seen in some other zombie-related media. Least favorite scene, what you got?
Man, I don't feel bad about this one at all. I hate this scene. I could take it out of the movie, and I'm fine. Even if I don't get the answer that this scene provided, I'm good with it. It's the scene where they find the fully stocked, untouched grocery store. There's like some Weezer-like music playing in the background. Mm-hmm. They all go through and fill their shopping carts with all this product that somehow has
remained on the shelves.
Just remained on the shelves, neatly stocked.
Right.
I get it. They had to answer the question of, what are they eating to survive? But I just really thought it was a poor way to do it. Like they even if they go in there and like some of the shelves are torn up and there's not as much product on it, and it looks like, a few groups have been through it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But there's still some left. Okay, I can believe that. But like, I kept watching that scene and I was like, no.
Yeah, they walk in and
the store is untouched.
They walk in and it's like, wow, really good clothes last night.
Like, the employees were like, all right, shit, fucking apocalypse tonight. Like, let's
go ahead and hey man, move those beans to the front.
So, this one doesn't feel nitpicky to me. I really hate it.
Yeah, I mean it's a little silly. The pristine condition of this grocery store,
and that's the only thing. Like I said, it could be fixed, fairly easily. But I was just like, no, I can't suspend my disbelief this much.
Yeah.
So take that scene out. That's really my only big issue.
I've got it's weird because I don't hate the scene necessarily, and I understand the story reasoning for it, but my least favorite scene is Jim in the restaurant. And it's not necessarily the scene in the restaurant, it's the choice to have him go in the restaurant to begin with, which serves no story function whatsoever.
Yeah,
the choice to go in the restaurant exists to create the scene in the restaurant. And that's frustrating to me when you're doing a thing, you're creating a situation because like, well, this has to happen because we need to explain his character progression later, but it doesn't explain why he would have made the choice to do it to begin with.
Yeah.
And I have an issue with the logic of this scene, why he went in there to begin with. It doesn't make any sense. Everything you've seen of Jim shows that he is a non-combative person, that he is not the kind of person that would seek conflict. So making the choice to go in there, and once he's in there, I get, that he would have that feeling like, you know what, fuck it. Let's see what's here,
Yeah.
But it's the choice to go in there to begin with that just does not make any sense to me from a story or character perspective, and that's just kind of my issue with the scene. It is, like I said earlier, it's a really hard movie for me to choose the least favorite scene. I definitely agree with you on the grocery scene that it doesn't make sense that the grocery store would look the way it does. Yeah. It's what the fuck? There are 5,000 grocery stores in this neighborhood, I guess, and that's the one that nobody goes to.
Right.
But yeah, I think most of the scenes in this movie work really well. Like I said, there's nitpicky stuff that you could say about a lot of the scenes. The scene with the cab breaking down. I have a couple of issues with that scene, namely Jim was really angry about the fact that they went in there, and then as soon as they get the flat tire, he's like, well, this is inconvenient, right?
Yeah.
Like he's
You don't
shockingly calm about it right after he was flipping out about the choice to go in. So there's a couple of scenes that I can be nitpicky and say, like, I don't really, and again, they're more logic issues than performance or the things that really take me out of a movie a lot of the time. But I can't pretend like they didn't bother me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Favorite character? Who you got?
All right. I'm going to try not to do this in a lot of podcasts moving forward, but I really just could not come up with just one.
Mm-hmm.
So I went with a pairing. But for me, it's Jim and Selena.
Yeah.
Rocky start for sure. Selena's very closed off when they first meet. She knows nothing, rightfully so. She knows nothing about Jim.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know if he's going to get her killed, if he's going to get her and Mark in a situation where they could get killed. But obviously as the movie goes on, they develop a really strong relationship, and just something about the two people that are just down for each other, ride or die. I definitely think Jim is more of the person you would want on your side. Selena, if she has to, she's going to leave you behind.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the way these characters gelled in the movie and learned how to kind of work together, the romance stuff, I could honestly take it or leave it with them.
Right.
It works. I'm not saying it's out of place at all. But even if they were just kind of besties throughout the movie, like, that's fine with me. I think that their pairing for me just works. It feels organic. It doesn't ever feel forced. I really kind of I was leaning towards the only other pairing in this movie, Frank and Hannah, but, I really couldn't decide who I liked more, Jim or Selena. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like them together is pretty good, right?
Yeah. Why not?
What you got?
So I went with Selena. Yeah. I think she has the best character arc in this movie. And I mean, you could argue that Jim and Selena have kind of mirrored character arcs. They each start in the opposite place from each other and work towards, where the other was at the beginning of the movie, I guess. Jim becomes more savage as he needs to be, and Selena becomes more human as she decides to be. But I just think Selena, Naomi Harris's performance in this movie is just really, really, really great. The scene where she kind of breaks down over Frank's death is one of the most emotional scenes in the movie. I really enjoy it. It's the first time you see her as considering things outside of her own survival. Her focus in that scene is Hannah's well-being. Yeah. She is not worried about herself. I mean, she is in the sense that, everything was great when it was the foursome, and now it's not what it was, and things are going to change, and it's going to be harder and that kind of thing. But really her focus is on Hannah and Hannah's experience and what she's going through. And for her to go from the character that killed Mark in the beginning of this movie to the character that has that conversation about Hannah, it just shows remarkable growth. So yeah, Selena's definitely my favorite character. I do want to give an honorable mention, and this is going to be wild. Forgive me for this take. My second favorite character in this movie is Major Henry West.
Okay.
So not as coolest hang? No, absolutely not. I think what did it for me with the Major West character was the line before he shoots Jim, where he says, "You killed all my boys." And the conversation that he has with Jim earlier, where he's talking about the reason that he created the recording was because Jones was about to kill himself.
Yeah.
Because there was no future. So this is a guy that has taken the mantle of responsibility of leadership and understood that carries a weight, and like he is it's not just about leading these people. It's about convincing them that they even need to be alive at this point.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of empathy for West, who I'm not saying the choices that he makes are good choices, but he did it from a sense of trying to take care of the people that are his people, that are close to him, that are his family, essentially. Because that's what the military teaches you, is that these are your brothers and yada yada. So he's looking out for, and he's kind of a father figure to these people who have probably, he's old enough to be the father of probably the majority of these people, these soldiers, and they've probably lost all the rest of their family. Like this is all they have, and his focus is not on himself. He is not thinking about it would be very easy as the person in charge of these military people to create an oligarchy, essentially, where he is dictator and everything, all the scotch goes to his room, you know what I mean? And it seems like he shares and takes care of his soldiers, and like I think that's respectable. The rapey stuff, not so much, that's pretty shitty, but like Eccleston does a really good job in this role. I think it's a really underrated performance, and I think he's a much more sympathetic character when you start thinking about those factors than you would initially, because you're like, well, the fucking soldiers are the bad guys. They suck. Yeah. All these guys suck.
Yeah.
But like when you start thinking about his motivation and start understanding why he did these things and, why he is doing what he's doing, it really makes him a lot more sympathetic, I think.
Yeah. That's, wow. That's 2 movies
in a row that I went to bat for. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say,
you'll see in the next episode.
Yeah.
I have a wild take in that movie too, but it'll make sense once you listen to it.
Yeah.
So least favorite character. And I think this is an easy fucking choice.
This is really awkward because I chose Henry West.
Really?
No.
Wow.
No. I'm just kidding. Look, there are going to be movies where some categories are just really hard to not pick the same person twice. So this guy's going to come up later, but it's Mitchell.
It's Mitchell. Fuck that guy.
It's fucking Mitchell.
He fucking sucks. Credit where credit's due. As we were discussing earlier, I think the other funniest part of the movie is when the zombie attack happens and he's like, "Oh, fuck, he bounced," or whatever he says.
Fucking hell! I've never fucking seen that before in my life.
That shit is legitimately funny.
Yeah.
But otherwise, fuck this guy. 100% fuck this guy.
Do you need to say that much? I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, I guess, but if you've seen this movie, like, you don't even need to really explain it. The guy is fucking awful.
He's terrible.
To your point about Henry West, Mitchell has a guy that is willing to take care of all these guys and willing to go to bat for them. And does he give a shit? No. Like, he's just kind of living it up, doing whatever the fuck he pleases, whatever's going to make him feel good.
Talking shit to his comrades at the table.
Yeah. Just the guy in every I don't want to keep saying zombie, in every apocalyptic movie that you just want to fucking go ahead and get rid of him. Just do it.
Yeah.
Someone's going to do it. Just get it over with. Fucking Mitchell.
Yeah, it's absolutely Mitchell. I have nothing further to add. Mitchell sucks. Fuck that guy. Favorite performance? Who is your choice for this category?
This is going to be the first one of these and there's going to be a couple that I'm going to be surprised if we don't share this, or at least he's not in your honorable mentions, but it's Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah, it's Gleeson.
Never a moment in this movie that I did not fully believe the character.
When they're at the blockade and he's losing his shit, and he's like, "We should go," and she's like, and so he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "Fucking go where?
Go fucking where?"
Like, oh my god, like that line delivery is so good. Oh my God. It's like, it's chilling, like legitimately chilling that the same guy that brought them into the apartment and offered them creme de menthe could turn into that in that moment was really, and wow.
That's the thing, is like the guy that offered them the drinks and welcomed them into his home was the guy that had all this hope. You know, this blockade, this was it.
Salvation.
You know? Yeah. And once he realized that it wasn't what it was supposed to be or what he thought it would be, that's the moment he snapped.
Yeah. I mean, he had one plan, and you know, as soon as that plan fell through, like, I mean, it's kind of how it goes when you have one hope and that hope is gone.
Yep.
You have no hope.
And that being said, I think that's what makes him the choice for best performance is, you know, he went through all the ranges.
Yeah.
You know, you get this, I mean, his introduction, you have no idea what you're getting out of this character. He's covered in riot gear, so there's nothing physical about him to tip you off about his character. You know, for all you know, he could take that shit off and be Mitchell. Be a complete dick.
For sure.
He takes it off and is just this warming, welcoming person. And to see him be able to flip the switch like that and give that performance, I mean, I couldn't find anyone that was more fitting for best performance.
Yeah. I've got 2 honorable mentions I want to highlight. I think Stuart McQuarrie's performance as Sergeant Farrell is very, very, very good. He doesn't have a lot of screen time in the movie, but he's so good every moment he's on screen. And then, you know, as I was saying a moment ago, Christopher Eccleston as Major Henry West, I think is a really good, understated performance. You know, I kind of talked a lot about the character a moment ago, so I won't get too deep into it. But I think, you know, when you factor out the fact that he is essentially the villain of the movie and just look at it from his point of view, like, really fantastic performance.
Worst performance.
I would be shocked if we do not have the same choice for this. And it's another, much like the Azkaban podcast, where I don't think the entire performance is bad. There's just a couple of line deliveries that are just really troublesome for me, and
I think I know where this is heading.
So I'm going with Megan Burns as Anna. I think it's one of those things where as the movie progresses, she gets better. The end sequence where, you know, she's high on the pills or whatever, she's fucking great in that sequence. So good. The sequence at near the beginning, near her introduction, where they're about to leave the apartment, she's terrible.
The balcony
scene is fucking rough. That is really bad line delivery. It's almost the weird thing is it's almost the same line delivery as when she's high, but it doesn't make sense in that scene, whereas it does in the scene where she's on drugs. You know, it's almost the same line reading. It's just, wait, why would she be talking like that here? It makes sense when she's, like I said, when she's high. It makes sense that she would be delivering the lines the way she is, but in that scene, it's not good. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I have the same answer. And I was trying to find a point in the movie, and I like that you said it was kind of halfway through, because in my notes it literally says she did seem to perform much better post Frank's death.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you know, halfway through the movie that you get that. And everything kind of after that moment is really good.
Yeah.
You know, I also jotted down that the stuff with her on Valium is absolute gold.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
The scene where shit's about to go down and Selena pulls her off the couch. She just lets out this, whoa. It's so perfect, you know. It could have been more of a whoa, and it wouldn't have hit as much. It's just this whoa,
very nonchalant kind of delivery. Yeah.
So Megan Burns, it's tough for a child actor out there.
Yeah, I mean, especially in this movie where every other performance is really good. You know, even Mitchell, a character I can't stand, the performance is really good.
Yeah, and that's for a lot of toughest hang or least favorite characters, I think that a lot of the times the performance is the reason that they make you feel so strongly to be that. So, yeah, I don't have an honorable mention on this one.
I don't either. Like I said, I think every other performance in this movie is pretty strong.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Yeah.
So that would move us into coolest hang.
Coolest hang. For coolest hang, I am going to go with Frank. Psych. You probably thought I was going to go with Frank. I am not. I'm going to go with Mark.
Okay.
Seems like a fucking cool dude, man.
Yeah.
Like the first real thing he says to Jim is a joke. I mean, it's a dad joke, but it's delivered. Great. It's delivered very well. I will give him props. Like he hits the punchline, the emphasis on the right words. It's really well delivered joke. Even funnier is his line immediately after the joke where he says he's completely humorless. Y'all get along like a whatever he says,
a house fire.
A house on fire. Yeah, exactly. Like that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I am down with Mark. I appreciate his sense of humor. I could definitely have a beer with that dude.
We share answers on this one.
I'm not shocked.
Just gonna kind of gloss over this one because pretty much all the same reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really, from the jump when he told the joke, I was like, oh, this is my guy, and then a few minutes later, he's dead.
Yeah. R.I.P. Mark. We'll miss you.
But yeah, we share answers on that one. I'm pretty sure
that's not going to change on the next category. Tang.
Mitchell,
fuck that guy.
Get it out of the way.
No point in digging further into this pile of shit. We covered it, I think, pretty thoroughly in least favorite character. This guy sucks. Rapey fucking asshole. Fuck Mitchell. Yeah. Best fit.
I don't think I had a hard time with this one. Like you mentioned, half the fucking cast.
Half the cast wears the same fucking uniform. Yeah.
But for me, I settled on Frank and his riot gear. Again, this was a category that I tried, but there was nothing that really jumped out at me. Selena kind of killed it in her red dress.
Yeah.
But yeah, Frank and the riot gear, just because it's dope.
Yeah. See, Selena in the red dress, like it's hard because she didn't want to wear that red dress. She didn't want to put that on.
Yeah.
She was forced to put that on. So it's hard for me to like. It's a great fit. Looks great on Naomi Harris, who looks great in this movie. Does great in this movie. My honorable mention is Brendan Gleeson in the riot gear. Dope look. The first time you see him, it's really, really fucking intimidating because you don't know if he's a friend or a foe or what's about to happen. So it's a really intimidating look. Kind of the opposite of what the character really is when you think about it. Big softy, really, but with this hard exterior, kind of a snail. But my choice for best fit. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Jim's birthday suit.
Oh,
I was like,
shit.
Man, you want to fit like Jim's birthday suit, man. I was first of all the most shocking look in the movie. You definitely did not expect the movie to basically open with full frontal nudity.
Opens with a fucking overhead shot.
Overhead shot of
dick.
Yeah, overhead dick shot. Like I respect it. Cillian Murphy's going for it in this movie. And like you said, there's a lot of people wearing the same shit, and it's post-apocalypse London. It's not super stylish,
right?
So yeah, I'm gonna go with the boldest look in the movie, which is Jim's birthday suit.
I can't disagree. I mean, I wouldn't wear it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd wear it. I guess I'd wear it in the hospital room by myself. I don't think I'd wear it in public. It's probably smart to put those scrubs on.
How did he end up naked anyway?
I don't understand what's going on in the British healthcare system. They can't afford gowns for their patients. Like don't end up in a British hospital, people. It's not going to go well for you. What are we now next? I think we got Top Bop.
Yeah. The trend probably continues of same answers. We've already kind of talked about it. The song in the opening sequence.
Yeah, East of Hastings.
Yeah, East of Hastings. Yeah.
It's the Godspeed You Black Emperor song. Like I was discussing earlier, the ramp up into the crescendo, and it just fits the pacing of the scene perfectly. There's a couple more tracks that I think are really good. I think it's In the House in a Heartbeat or In the Mansion in a Heartbeat, something like that. That's a fantastic track. I think that's probably when I think of the specific score to this movie, that's the track that jumps out at me first. Some of the I think it's the second track you hear in the movie. It's kind of starts a little slow and then goes into heavy guitar and a little bit of synth.
Yeah,
that's a really good one too. The whole score I think is superb. Again, it's not John Williams, but what the fuck is going to be John Williams? It's a high bar to clear, but it works perfectly for this movie. And I don't think there's a scene where I'm like, wow, this music is really takes me out of it.
Yeah,
I don't love the song that plays during the scene where Jim finds his parents, but it makes sense for the scene. I just don't really much care for the song.
Right.
It's just personal preference for me. It's not that I think the song choice is bad. It's just I don't care for the song. It very much makes sense for the scene. I just don't care for it.
Yeah. So I think the progression of the song, like you mentioned, East of Hastings is just perfect. The beginning of the song gave me real The Last of Us vibes. Just that acoustic guitar completely alone, no other sound accompanying it. That acoustic guitar with no other sound. It's
haunting.
Yeah, haunting. Yeah, thank you.
And especially with the how empty everything is around Jim, like it just fits perfectly.
I would not be surprised to learn that the creators of The Last of Us were inspired by that specific track. That's how much it reminded me of the music in that game. But yeah, not much more to say that you didn't already say about this song. Perfect example of the tension. Perfect example of the feeling that Jim is feeling in that moment.
Yeah, perfect. What else can you say? Oh, now it gets weird. We're into the John C. Reilly category. So if you could replace any actor in this movie with John C. Reilly, who would it be?
Oh boy. Private Jones.
Wow.
All right. So this is a tough category. Going into this podcast, I was like, man, this is going to be the most fun category, going to be an easy choice. Every movie, just kind of plug it in to where it's funny. And this one was really hard.
Yeah.
I think I was maybe like an hour or so into my second watch of this movie before I was like, oh, I got somebody.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to stick with the same reasoning that I have with my other John C's and just plug him into a place that I think would be absolutely hilarious. And that for me is Private Jones. John
C. in the Apron.
Yeah. Just from his introduction where they're teasing him, driving around him in the front courtyard area. And he's like, I've got cooking to do. And, just seeing him in that role of kind of the guy that gets ragged on. And there's some stuff towards the end where, especially his death scene and all that, where I'm like, maybe John C. it wouldn't hit as funny as in this. But, this was a tough one for me. I'm really excited to see who you chose because,
man. Well, I agree that it's a really tough movie for the John C. Reilly. our next episode, which we've already recorded, I had a really hard time also choosing the John C. Reilly. This movie, it's kind of for different reasons. Like with the next movie, I kind of feel like the casting is just so perfect that I wouldn't want to change anybody in that movie. Mm-hmm. With this one, it's more that the people that I would want to recast, I wouldn't want to see as John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
The characters I like the least, I don't want to fucking see John C. Reilly as Mitchell.
Right.
Like, what the fuck? I'd ruin my opinion of John C. Reilly. It's the reason that he is the actor that was chosen for this category. So I think I'm going to go with the Catholic priest. Just it's a brief part. It's a very physical role. There's not much in with the way of line delivery, so that's unfortunate. So you don't get a lot of John C. in this movie. Man. But I just think that seeing the faces, the expressions that would be on his face in that scene would just be quite hilarious. It kind of ruined the tone of the movie, I think, a little bit. I considered him also for the scientist in the opening scene, but I was like, I don't know. It's just anybody could play that role, and that role doesn't matter. Not to say that the scene matters in terms of the movie, but like, whatever, man. I didn't need a great actor to play that part. I just needed somebody to deliver that exposition and get us to the next scene. That's all you need there. So yeah, it's funny because I have in my outline the scientist, and I pivoted at the last moment. I think I want to go with the priest.
Yeah.
Same, get walloped by the fucking bag of product placement. That'd be great.
Yeah. I think the priest is that's great. Again, if John C. Reilly were actually the person cast to play that part, it would be super jarring. But for this category that we're doing, like that's fucking great. Wow. I like that.
All right. So if ever there was an appropriate category for this movie, it is the next category, which is who from this movie would you add to your zombie apocalypse survival team?
Oh, you think we're going to have the same answer?
I think we will.
You think this is a countdown kind of situation? Or you want me to go
Yeah, fuck it. We'll go for it.
All
right. So 3, 2, 1, Selena.
Jim. Okay. All right. This is becoming a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Why Jim?
Well, Selena was my other character that I was back and forth on this one with. But for me, it comes down to, so they're both capable of getting it done.
Yeah.
But for me, it comes down to their motivations. Mm-hmm. And it's a very specific interchange between these characters where they're talking about Frank and Hannah, and Selena is, very open about, if they'd slowed me down, I'd let them die. Mm-hmm. And Jim is just without hesitation, I wouldn't. And for me, that's what earned Jim's spot on my team.
Yeah.
Is that, he's not going to let anyone be left behind.
Yeah.
Do I think that Selena might be a better fighter? Yeah. Mm-hmm. More experience? Yeah. Willing to do the dirty work? For sure.
Also a chemist.
Good shit. But and not only the reasons that I just mentioned, but the way that he completely fucking gouge dude's eyes out at the end.
Yeah.
I could take
he can go to a dark place if he needs to.
Yeah. I could take a dude with that kind of rage. And I have Hagrid.
You spoiler. Don't be a spoiler.
I have Hagrid.
So now you have Hagrid and Jim. Your team consists of Hagrid and Jim, and just Hagrid and Jim only.
So yeah, now my team is Hagrid and Jim.
That was fun. That's all right. We'll keep it.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. So why did you pick Selena?
So I think you just did a really unfair thing to Selena. So you took Jim based off of late stage Jim. You took the version of Jim that will stick around for people, but also gouge a motherfucker's eyes out.
Okay.
And I'm taking the version of Selena that will kill you if that's what it takes to protect herself and others, but also appreciates the found family and, has come to the realization that life isn't just all shit. That there's something greater than living for oneself. Okay. And, so I think Selena, with that realization that, not to brag, I look at myself as the leader of my team.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to be the most helpful person on my team, but I'm the leader. That's the way I kind of view it. And I think with strong leadership, like Selena could go really far. She could be a Hall of Famer in a zombie apocalypse scenario with the right leadership. And I think that with myself and Buckbeak, we could create that found family for her and get her to buy in on the group experience and, get her fully on board with, keeping the team alive rather than herself alive.
Okay.
Plus, like I said, we got Buckbeak. So when we need to dip, we can dip and it's no big deal. Like that creates that lowers the stress level, I think, and allows her to kind of relax and not be so eager to murder me when anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go Selena. My alternate, on the off chance that you picked Selena, which I figured it was going to be Jim or Selena, so I was leaning towards Selena, and I figured you would too. But I respect the Jim pick. My alternate was Hannah.
Oh, okay.
Because man, sometimes you need a getaway driver. She has proven that she can whip it, man. Like straight up, like the scene where she whips it in front of the gas the tanker truck that's great driving. She's fearless. She'll bust right through that gate if that's what it takes. Mm-hmm. Even if it puts you in a freeze frame, she'll bust right through that gate. No qualms about it. So last category, we are at MVP. I think we both kind of, I don't want to say struggled with this category, but it just hard to narrow it down to one person, I think, is kind of the way we both felt about this. So who'd you decide on?
I decided on Alex Garland.
Holy fucking shit. So I told James before we filmed that I would be shocked if we had the same fucking pick. And I chose Alex Garland.
Really?
Yeah. I think the most unimpeachable aspect of this movie is the script.
Yeah. I agree.
There are aspects of the cinematography I love, and there's aspects of the cinematography I hate, and there's aspects of the performances that I love, and there's aspects of the performances that I hate, and there's little directorial choices that I love and some that I hate. And, I say hate. I don't mean hate. That I can nitpick. They could be better, I guess is what I mean to say. But I think the script of this movie is really on point. I don't think that. I've watched a lot of zombie movies, man. Most of them are kind of shitty. Let's be honest. Yeah. They don't have the depth of the thematic depth that this movie has. They don't have the societal commentary that this movie has. It takes the best of George Romero to achieve what Alex Garland achieved in his first fucking screenplay.
Yeah,
that's a hell of an achievement, and I'm going to give it to Alex Garland. Props to Danny Boyle. I think this movie is incredibly well directed. Probably a lesser director, this movie could have gone off the fucking rails. Yeah. So props to him, but I chose Alex Garland. Yeah. What do you think?
For me, it's a lot of the same reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That there are some issues with the way the movie looks. There are even issues with the way the movies there are even issues with the way the movie is directed. Mm-hmm. But I find it really hard to find weaknesses in the way the movie is written.
No, it's to say anything is perfect is hyperbole. Yeah, what is perfect? Who determines what perfect even is?
Right.
But I think this, in terms of the genre of this movie, like this script is pretty unimpeachable.
And it comes down to again the pacing of the movie, the feeling that aside from one grocery shopping scene, I don't think that there was a scene in this movie that, like I said earlier, overstayed its welcome. I think that every scene had a reason.
Right.
Every scene had a right to be there. I even trying to nitpick, I couldn't find a whole lot of things about the writing of this movie that I thought were bad.
And again, I think a lot of it comes to the pacing, is knowing when to put those quiet, reflective moments. The scene where they, after the grocery store, where they stop to eat and they see the horses running wild, and
yeah.
I mean that in terms of the story, that scene doesn't need to be there.
Yeah,
but in terms of the emotionality of the movie, it's perfectly placed, because it just, you're about to see something really dark, and you're coming out of some stuff that's pretty dark, and you know it's really easy when you make a movie like this to make torture porn. You know, where a movie is just relentlessly bleak, where it's fucking Handmaid's Tale season 2.
Yeah.
You know, where they're like, I fucking need a win for my guys. Like, can I get a win? And, you know, a lot of times with these kind of movies, like, you just never get it. And there's no humor. Yeah. And this movie is not a jokey movie. There's not a lot of jokes in it.
Yeah.
There's a couple, but
when it's done really well.
Like, so I think the humor in this is more, again, the scene where Mailer's chasing the soldier across the room. That's so funny, and just relieves a lot of the tension, and just finding the perfect moments to do that, while still keeping the movie incredibly serious and thematically resonant is just a hell of an achievement. I said, for a first screenplay, I don't think there are many that are more impressive than this.
Yeah.
So I think that pretty much wraps us up. Do you have any final thoughts on 28 Days Later?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered everything that we intended to. I am super happy with the way that this one turned out. It's kind of becoming a trend at this point that I'm expecting these movies to blow me away.
Yeah.
At some point, inevitably, I'll be let down.
We've got a bad one coming soon. It's a couple weeks away. It's gonna be it's the one I'm looking forward to the least.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna spoil it. I keep teasing it. I'm not gonna spoil it. You think I'm gonna tell you what it is, but I'm not. Wait until it happens, and then I'll go in on this fucking movie. I promise you.
But yeah, came away with this one, you know, very, very impressed, very happy. Can't wait to see what the next one is. Kind of sad now that this one is over.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, zombie type movies.
Well, the nice thing is this one's at least available on streaming, so you can at least go back to it again when you want without having to pay extra for it. So that's nice. It's not E.T. where you have to fucking pay for it every 3 days. So.
Right.
Again, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. Wherever you can find podcasts, you can probably find Must Have Missed It.
We own all that shit now.
You can also find us on Instagram at Must Have Missed It. You can find us on Twitter at Must Have Missed It. You can join the Discord. You can send us emails. We love emails. Please send us the emails.
More emails, please.
musthavemissedit@gmail.com. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We look forward to hitting y'all with a new movie in about 2 weeks. Happy Halloween. Stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Let's go.